Hi, welcome to Titan York, the Titan York Show. We've been off for a little while over the summer, and we're back again. And I'm really excited to bring to you sort of a really interesting topic that is hard for many landlords and those who own property to get financing from your municipal government or federal government or provincial government. And there's a ton of these projects available. And today we'll be joined by Chaim Koff. He's the project manager and public energy initiatives. If he's coming on, he should be on any second now. No. For the city of Toronto. And here he is. That's great. Welcome, Chaim.
Yeah, Aaron, how's it going?
Good. Welcome. And so I'm going to get started and just sort of talk about, like, I own a building and I've had challenges accessing the city and government. And I've been lucky to meet Chaim. He is this wealth of information and navigation and advice, and really it's a testament to the city of Toronto and Chaim that that his services are out there for people like myself to access. And so what I'm going to do is let me just move this forward here. Oh, so let me go. Here we go. So Chaim, maybe you just want to talk about yourself a little bit. Tell them people who you are, what you do. It is a bit of a, for most people that don't quite understand how the city works, and you have a very special role in the city.
Okay. So first off, Aaron, thank you very much for this opportunity. I always look forward to being able to walk out of my office, even though my office is at home now, but really trying to mingle and talk to the public, to, the residents and the people that live in the city, building owners, and try to find out, what people's concerns are and learn about the opportunities. So, this is a really great opportunity. Just a little bit about me. So I'm a project manager with the City of Toronto's Environment and Energy Division. It's really looking at the environmental opportunities and improvements that we can add in and invest in the city. But a big part of what we do is really focused on economics and really trying to improve the city's economy. And that's really been our goal, especially since the start of COVID-19 and coronavirus, really trying to see how we can mire the idea of environmental sustainability and resiliency with creating a better and an improved economic zone here within the city. So personally, I've been with the city for around 8 years. And my role with the city has always been, how can I find other incentive programs or other levels of government? How can I find funding from those other levels of government and bring that back to the city? And that's always been my role. And then most recently, I've been taking that and bringing it to the private sector as well. So working with building owners and helping them find, whether it be an incentive, whether it be a loan fund, whether it be a grant, really trying to help them find the solution so they can implement their project.
So I'm going to give you kind of, I think one of the ways we should do this is, I'm going to give you a scenario that we'll work through the next, through this presentation, because I think that'll make people understand the process a bit more. So let's say I own a building on the Danforth, and I have a very old hydronic, which is basically a gas heater. I have lots of old heat pumps, old water tower, old chillers, and I want to finance and change my system. So I'm going to set that scenario up, and let me come back to it in a second. So what we'll do is we'll take that scenario and you'll see how it fits through the topic. So right now, look, what's the background of the city involvement in commercial real estate? I think that's one of the topics that why the city is so interested. What are the objectives? What are they trying to achieve with the funding? It's not just funding for the sake of funding, of course. There are really, there's targets that people want to get to, and there's like, you are municipal, but there's provincial and there's federal, and what you do from the municipal level is you could also reach up for provincial and federal incentives. And often these incentives are linked all the way down. So for example, I think the retrofit program we're going to talk about, it's a loan which you borrow money from at a certain rate and pass on to the landlord at no cost. There's all, but those are through different levels of government as well.
Oh,
And then,
yeah.
yeah, and experience the recommendation of accessing the city funding. So really quickly, your division is this. So just maybe you should talk about your division.
High level, why, what does the Environment and Energy Division do within the city? Our focus is really on the environment and on creating a more resilient city. So that includes energy conservation, but a big focus of us is also carbon emissions. We want to ensure that, the effects of climate change are mitigated, and really trying to drive a more resilient city, whether that means economic or environmental. So that is the number one goal for us as a city.
Okay, and so again, and going back to our scenario, I have an energy sucking building that uses that just wastes gas and electricity. So when I tell you that, what goes into your head in your department? What do you think?
So immediately our thought is, how can we engage with this building owner? Because right now we have issues with electricity consumption. So first of all, just from the environmental, our environmental approach, we're immediately looking at it and saying, hey, this building is producing too much emissions. On a square foot basis, why are they using so much electricity, so much natural gas? Let's see what we can do. We also take a look at, how you're impacting the supply. So, electricity is limited, especially in the city of Toronto. Like it does, we only have a certain amount of it that we can access from Toronto Hydro. And sometimes when the grid is it's being overused, we ask people to turn down their air conditioner. So how can we work to support this building owner to make better decisions? And of course, the other big piece is resiliency. We want to ensure that you as a building owner are also saving money on your utilities. So this is something that we immediately go in and we'll run you through our program, whether it mean, again, I do manage the Energy Retrofit Loan Fund, but we'll talk a little bit later about the other programs that are available as well.
So basically you're like, hey, I'm going to help you by financing or helping to finance the change to your building, so you reduce emissions and you also reduce energy. And I think one of the reasons that you want to reduce electricity, which you mentioned, is that there's only so much electricity going around. And if you can reduce the amount of electricity, you also reduce the need for building more power plants and
yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, reducing the amount of natural gas power plants we have on the grid not only is better for the environment, it's a tremendous opportunity for us to have more green energy, talking about relying on more solar power, more windmills. So, yeah, absolutely. We're going to save a lot of money and save emissions as well.
So, and I'm linking this. So I'm linking emissions with lending us money. Like that's really lending landlords money. I think that's really interesting.
That is exactly what we're doing here.
And so you can see here that for greenhouse gas emissions in Toronto, 52% of it is produced by buildings. That's insane. So the commercial building, is that also houses, or is that just commercial, residential, investment buildings?
So that is all real estate. So it's like commercial, residential, industrial, and we have a slide, I think the next slide, that really breaks it down. So 36% of that is commercial and institutional, 13% industrial, but the majority of emissions are still really coming from the residential. And residential doesn't just mean houses, it also means like multi-res. So a lot of that is buildings as well.
So commercial and institutional does not include an apartment building?
No, so that would be under the residential.
And so anything you can to affect change from, like for me to go and reduce my carbon footprint, you want to help invest into that. So that's it. Okay, so you're trying to choose. So this slide here kind of like encapsulates. So climate action, right? So we've just sort of talked about that. Helping business lower and landlords lower utility consumption. One, we need less power plants, and we need more, and it helps us with the green power, right? So with more, is that right? Is that how it works?
That's exactly it. So the more efficiency we have on the grid, the more reliance we can have on, the type of what we call renewable or green power. We're looking, the idea here is that if we can minimize the need for natural gas power plants, then we can start to find other types of fuel sources, which hopefully being renewable, and manage those on an economic basis. The more demand we have, meaning the less efficiency we have and the more demand that we have from buildings, means that we need to have more natural gas power plants. And as we all know, those are expensive messes that can go on for years and years and just create added costs. So we really want to move away from that and really try to find cheaper sources of power.
So, and then I think one of the other comments is that you're there to help stimulate the economy too.
I cannot overstate that enough. The environment is an important piece, but we also have to look at the economy. We have to look at livelihoods as well. When COVID-19 hit, we saw an immediate downturn of interest in retrofit interest, jobs disappearing. We really want to push that forward. We want new jobs, we want more revitalization, and we also want tenants, improved comfort for tenants. That's a big piece as well. I'm not sure how familiar you are with building standards and all this push for improvements to buildings, because it does impact your tenants as well. And then of course, increasing the building value. So we want to push Toronto and ensure that the real estate sector is able to continue to maximize their profits and growing their industry. And so a big part of this as well is really restarting the economy, growing the economy, and helping landlords as well.
Okay, so let's go to let's go back one more. So
Sure.
Just on the federal side, so there's the National Housing Strategy for, so there's about $10 million per building that they can give you.
I mean, this is like really reaching back to this idea where the city is not going to be able to fund every project. We're not. We are never going to be the people to bankroll 100% of projects. But what we are there is to find opportunities and find other levels of government that are looking to fund. And a great example of that is the federal National Housing Strategy, with a focus on affordable housing, especially the FCM funding here, where there's a grant of up to 50% of $10 million per building. So it depends on the building's energy consumption, and there's calculations that'll go into how much money you're able to get for your building. But I mean, especially for new development that's looking at building a new affordable housing building, they can access a lot of money. $10 million is not a little amount of money. That's a big number.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
a lot of money.
And you're talking about not paying it back. So grants, I mean, that's pretty significant.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The energy, so this takes us to what you really can give. So this is the energy retrofit loan. So here I am, I got a energy pig of a building who's just needs to change, and the city is going to offer me very low interest financing. So now, right now, that 2.5% that you're showing is not exactly low for just now. Like last year, it'd be so low. This year, it's close to what the banks are offering. So there's a point where things should change. But maybe you should talk about this program.
Yeah, so definitely. So the Energy Retrofit Loan Program is our premier program that I manage at this point in time. And it is low interest financing for certain sectors, especially in the industry. With corporate real estate, every building is in a different capital scenario, but you are completely correct that compared to today's bank rates, it's not low per se. What I would preface is to say that the city as a whole is going back to the markets, and we are expecting that this rate will come down. Our original rate was really based on a 2019 capital raise. And as you know, the interest rates have come down significantly from 2019, but our current rates are still reflecting that 2019 capital raise, but I do expect it to drop. Off the cuff, we're hoping for 1.7, but it's hard to know until the capital is placed.
So I've run a couple of numbers on this, and first of all, I ran the numbers at a 1.7% interest rate, and what I figured out from this is that, and the way you set it up is that the repayment is based on energy savings. So the energy savings over time up to 20 years. So So you have 20 years, your amortization on this is 20 years long.
Yes.
And let's say the market right now on a commercial mortgage is 2.9, and you could probably offer 1.7 after you go to council. So you're at least a point and a bit more. My feeling was that you actually came very close on a monthly basis on a 20-year payback. And that extra 5 years of amortization would throw it over the edge, but it really is a competitive loan, and it's not necessarily on title, right? I think that's what
I think we two of the most significant benefits or opportunity, and really what we use to sell this program. And again, the goal really is to promote, environmental and energy efficiency retrofits. But two of the biggest benefits are, the first one is our interest-free and payment-free, usually for the first year. We want to see the building owner being able to benefit from those energy savings before you begin to pay back our loan. So that's, that is nice that you get that first year to be able to really optimize your building and start seeing those first savings. But I think you're right, which is the registration of the loan on title. Typically, we are not required to register the loan on title, because, and the rationalization is like this, Aaron, is that, we're the city. We're not looking to fund risky projects. We're looking to fund buildings that are, looking at improving their buildings. These are owners that are planning to invest in their buildings, improve their buildings. And that's why our focus isn't to create added hardships by registering on title. And that's also the reason for the 20-year term. The 20-year term is vested in energy savings. And I think you mentioned it earlier. And, for the audience, I'll just go through a little bit of the basics behind it, is that our funding, like the annual payments, need to equal your energy savings or your forecasted energy savings for that year. So a little bit of a complicated calculation where the maximum amount of money the city can lend you is also equal to your savings from your energy project. And so we are hesitant to register on title because we think that you're going to save that money. So every year we expect you to save a certain amount of money from the present, and that should allow you to pay us back.
Wow, that's a really interesting way of financing and getting access to financing.
Absolutely.
Okay, and when you do this, when you look at a property, do you like, okay, well, what's the mortgage on it now? Or do you look at the current loan to value? Is there sort of a system that you're going through? Like,
yeah. So, and this is something that it's really important to understand the eligibility and the application process. One of the, I guess, when you, as a building owner, again, let's take your example with a building that has older heat pumps. They'll come through, they'll bring what we call the expression of interest. And that's really just a form that tells the city that you're interested. It really is a budget number for us, very, very high level. It gives us the opportunity to go and budget correctly. And then that also tells us that's the go. That means that we should start working with you as a building owner. You're interested. As soon as we have that go, we start working with the building owner to prepare this detailed application. The detailed application really hones in on what the project is, why they're doing that project, what's the energy savings that you're going to see, and what's required from the building owner. And this is where I'll answer your question, is that we require a feasibility or engineering study. So we require some document that's from a third party that verifies the energy savings, but we also require 2 years of audited financial statements. And that's where we start to look at your LTVs and your other mortgages on the property. There is a financial assessment where we're not, again, like the focus is more on your energy savings, but we do have to look out for the city's best interests. So if the building is overextended or there are extremely high LTVs, then there could be a requirement for some securitization. Again, we don't generally have to register on title, but there are some other types of security that we might be requesting.
It's funny. We've talked about this once before about the audited financial statement. So there are, there's a couple of barriers to entry on this one. One is the audited financial statements. Most companies don't have audited financial statements. They have note to reader, I think, is the way it's said. So for example, in my company, we don't like the financial requirements to do an audited financial statement versus a regular financial statement that by the way, which banks have lent on, landlords have given leases on, and the government, taxes me on those regular financial statements, that to go to an audit, it could be like $15,000 to $20,000 to do an audit financial statement. And the feasibility and engineering study can also be $10,000 to $15,000. I mean, you're gonna have to do an engineering study anyways, and feasibility, like that's kind of part of the process of changing your HVAC system. But there's still a cost at the feasibility and engineering study level too. But that's part of it, right? So, and you in the first part of your process, I think you have it here. So, and we're going to bounce around this one. So, your first part of your application process, you sort of do a walk around energy auditing. How does that work?
So really, as soon as we engage with the building owner, this is actually my favorite part of the process, which is we immediately go back to them and say, hey, do you know what other opportunities there are in your building? And 9 times out of 10, people say, no, I have no idea. And that's where really we kick in with our navigation services, which is available as part of the ERL. It's available as part of the loan application, but it's also available as a standalone service. We offer a walkthrough audit at no cost to building owners. So you just call us up. We have a simple questionnaire form that gives us a little bit of information about the building, and that's it. We'll do a walkthrough audit. We'll make recommendations. We'll come out with, you actually get a mini report that provides you with some guidance of what opportunities are in your building. So ready to go. So,
and by the way, we've added the slides at the end, which we're really not going to be showing, but so here's the eligibility.
There we go.
Here's the application process, and it's got a 20-year payback. So so if anyone owns a building that's looking to do energy changes, HVAC, lighting, windows, whatever it is, there is available retrofit loans from the city in order to do it. And again, you're working within city guidelines and all kinds of stuff, which is always an issue. But you have Chaim here to hold your hand through the process.
Yeah, I can't promise it'll be simple, but I can promise to try to make your life as easy as possible.
Right.
And I would, one other point is that, if you're a building owner that's going through a typical refinance cycle, and this project comes up mid-cycle, so you're in the middle of your term, you don't want to break that mortgage or whatever it is. We have no prepayment penalties. So you can borrow the money for 20 years, 3 years later, you decide you want to pay it back. That's no problem for us. Why? Because the city's goal is really to see projects happen. So as long as we helped you bring that project to fruition, that's great for us. We have no issues with you paying it back early.
So these are the other ones that are out there. So save on energy, right?
Yeah. So these are I just wanted to give you a little bit of high level on like what other incentives there are. And as part of navigation services, part of the energy retrofit loan, we're going to work with you to make sure that you're engaged with these specific incentives and any others that are coming out. So, there's the save on energy. Many building owners might have heard of this if they've done any LED lights. This is the typical utility incentives that are available from the province. So it's for lighting, HVAC, heat pumps. There's even money for boilers through Enbridge, and also building automation. Many buildings are starting to become more high tech, and they're adding these levels of computers or building automation. I'm not sure how familiar we are. We could go very deep in that. But those changes that you have in buildings impact the amount of electricity and or natural gas that you're using, and the utilities will actually pay you for saving on your utilities. So it's like, not only are you saving on the utilities, you're also getting paid to save on the utilities.
So, so the energy management, there's an energy management which is federal. There's the affordable housing we talked about. And there's also the CMHC, which we also talked about, which we haven't talked about, but we talked about it in a different webinar with Elam Barda from First National, who really is part of that whole CMHC and housing strategy for First National. So, so here it is. So this is also available for businesses. So if you want to change the LED lighting in your business. This is just for small business, not for landlords, but actually for tenants. So if your tenant wants to change something, then this is a really good way to do it, where you can say, look, here's $2,000. And it's only business, right? Like, it's not for residential tenants can't access this. This is only for business tenants, right?
Exactly. As a resident, if anybody here is, they own multi-res, they're eligible for the program, but not for this program. Like, we have other incentives that are available for them. This is really a tenant-based program. And the real key behind this is that you don't need to be technical. You don't need to know that much about what you're doing. Why? Because these are what we call direct install programs. These are programs where, a contractor walks in, they tell you exactly what they're going to do. They tell you exactly the lights that they're going to install, and then they install them. And you don't actually pay anything. There's no check from you. There's no cash out of hand. The lighting just comes in and it's just installed. And it's really, really seamless and easy to do. And one of the things that the city's done in order to ensure that we'd have even more access to this and make it even simpler is we brought in what we call the Tabia Small Business Energy Manager. And that's really somebody from Tabia, but through the city, where our contact here is Nick Brown, who he'll provide that hand-holding service where he'll work with that tenant to ensure that they're accessing that small business lighting and they're able to really implement the project. So
That's great.
It's again, the idea really here is, let's just make it simple, okay? There's been too much, it's always been too hard to apply for these incentives. It's difficult, you gotta send in forms, you gotta send in applications. How can we bring it down to that personal approach? How can we give you that focused customer service and customer service that you really need in order to actually apply for these programs and get the funding that you need to do your project?
So look, I'm blown away by what the city's actually doing. And I think one of the challenges that we've also talked about too is, being able to communicate this to to people out there. And, what is the city doing to disseminate this kind of information?
Yeah, so we're reaching out to people like Aaron, and that, no, but in reality, we have been working together with customers and reaching out. But what I've actually found is that reaching to the channel partners, the allies, the contractors, and other, the energy management companies that are actually doing the projects, that's actually one of the best steps forward, or the right path for us to reach as many customers as possible. Because typically we're finding that customer trust is in their contractor. It's in it's in that person who's managing your project. And so if I want to be able to help that, help the individual, help the customer, I need to earn the trust first from that contractor, work them through the process, show them exactly what type of support they're going to need to provide, and then reach out to us,
I think one of the things that we're seeing, as a society, as a species population, is that there's a connection between environment, energy, and cost that the governments are incorporating. Like, this isn't, when people think, oh, when they see your title, City of Toronto Environment and Energy, they might think, oh, you're gonna, you want to make sure that there's no, we don't take away wetlands, or we don't do this, or we don't. That's not your job. Your job is to associate cost solutions to save to change environmental practices so that we live in a better city and survive, which I think is a really interesting way of the city, approaching it. It's a recognition that this isn't just like, hey, you should do better. This is about, how do I incentivize our citizens to, through, the users, to change the way they use their properties so that we can save the environment and put cost and financing and real life solutions to helping landlords and tenants. I think it's a really, people aren't talking about this at the city level as much. They're not giving enough kudos to you guys. And I think you should really, I think there should be a lot more of awareness. It's a complicated connection to put environment, cost, lending, technology, all in the same bag. So I have to say that's that's a sophisticated approach for a city, and you guys are doing great.
Okay, thank you. No, I mean, I think that's really the message that we want to put out there. Listen, we are all for wetland preservation and all those
Yes.
wonderful things that you mentioned.
Yes.
But that's, that is the city of old. We need to innovate. We need to improve. We need to start looking at what citizens today really need. And that is it. It's really miring the economic and the environmental, putting it together and giving real solutions that people can use.
Well, thank you very much. And we will, of course, talk all the time, as we always do.
Awesome.
And I really appreciate you agreeing to this. I know this was a bit of a strange request. And you asked someone from the city to get on a webinar. They're like, let me check, right? But I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again soon, and we can come back with some new initiatives and stuff like that.
Anytime. And I'm sure we are going to be introducing new initiatives as well. Like, we're really trying to push this forward as much as possible. So thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you, Chaim.
You too.
Bye-bye.